Hi, come on in. Come on in. Come sit a spell with me, right? We're going to do some more Timu today. I've been thinking about this for the past few days. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe I still have not run out of things just coming out of my kitchen. But today, we're going to hit my baking pantry. So most everything in today's video is going to be bakeware of some sort with a few other little things added into it. This is my Timu Kitchen part 4. Can you believe it? And yes, there's going to be a part 5 because just when I thought I had everything, I came up with another 34 items. So there's going to be 33 items in today's video, and the next one will have 34, and hopefully that'll be it from my Timu Kitchen. Anyway, welcome back. For those of you that have been here before, you know where you are. For those of you that are new, my name is Connie, and you've just entered Connie's Little Corner. If you are new, please go down below. You can click on my link to download the Timu app. That will also get you a $100 coupon bundle for future purchases and 30% off your first order if you use this code right here, AFC 95851. That's my code for your 30% discount at checkout. Okay? Everything will be listed down below. What you're going to see up above is the items that I'm going to do this review on. Let's get started. All right. The first one is lunch bags. Now, I love these, and I don't necessarily just use them for lunch bags. I use them for transporting things back and forth when I'm traveling back and forth to mom's, or if I need to make a quick run and pick something up and I don't want to grab my pocketbook, I'll throw my wallet and my cell phone in one of these. And then, like, if I'm picking up a prescription or something, I throw everything in this little bag. So these are my two favorites, and I don't prefer one over the other. There's a blue one over here. This is my most recent one. It looks like denim. It is very nicely insulated, nice soft handles. It wipes down, stays clean nicely, folds up. I actually fold in the bottom and then I roll it and put a zip tie, reusable zip tie that I got from Timu, showed them in my last video. I use a zip tie to keep it rolled up and up in the cabinet. This other one over here, this cute little red and white striped one, I do believe I gave one just like this in my 1,000 subscriber thank you box. Candace, you can say yes or no to that. I don't remember. There was so much in that box. But this one is very similar. It's just a little bit smaller. Both of these will easily hold a 6-pack, a can 6-pack. The blue one will hold a bottle of like the root beer 6-pack that has the long necks on them and not the cans. The blue one will hold that. This striped one will only hold the can size ones, but they're both perfect. They work well. They're very well insulated. I have used them for cold beverages. I put little ice packs in them. Highly recommend both of these. Thumbs up. You can't go wrong with either of these. See, there's your first two items, just like that, right? Okay, 31 more to go. Now, these utility scissors, these are my kitchen scissors. I love that they have the sheath on the end of it, and that protects them so that when I reach into the drawer or if I happen to put them down someplace, I can cover and protect them. These are multi-purpose, multi-use. As you can see, they has a little hook on it if I need to open a jar. A bottle. I'll get it right yet, right? One of the three. It has like a bottle opener in it. It has a little serrated area that you can use for like cracking bones and things. These are sharp enough to cut through. If I'm taking a whole chicken and cutting it down, these will just snap right through those bones. So these are great. These are my food scissors in the kitchen. I haven't tried them on anything else, but they do work beautifully. They're not rusting. I wash them in the dishwasher And when I pull them out, I make sure that it's nice and dry around the center point where it's connected. Cover them up, slide them right back in the drawer. So this is definitely a big thumbs up on these, okay? Love, love, love these scissors. Next. Okay, bowls. Well, yeah, you need bowls when you're getting ready to do some baking, right? Depending on what you're baking. Not everything goes in my stand mixer. This set of aluminum bowls, these are really nice. It's a set of 3. I shouldn't say aluminum. They are stainless steel and they wash up nicely. They don't stain. The water here is not hard, so I don't worry too much about the inside of the bowls changing, so to speak. But they do clean up nice. I've actually put a couple of them in the oven when I needed to warm something that was in them. I just put it on a cookie sheet and put it in the oven, and it works really nice. They're good for mixing anything. They're good for storing. They did not come with lids, but as I showed you a couple videos ago, I do have the stretchable lids in 6 different sizes, and I have lids that fit over the top of these nicely. So they're just basic bowls, but they work really well. So I'm going to give them a thumbs up. Now, my muffin mold tray. This is the big muffin tray. When I say big, means full-size muffins, not mini muffins. This is full size. I love the silicone bakeware. You have to hold on a second. Okay, I'm back. I just feel like the hair was just pulling on me too much. And yes, this is a headpiece. It's a TEMU headpiece. But I just wanted something a little bit longer today, a little sillier. So it just seemed like it was pulling too much having it over on one side because it's a lot of hair. All right, where were we? The muffin mold tray. Okay, so this makes the regular size muffins. I do not have to pre-spray in this mold when I'm making muffins or like little mini cakes, or if I'm making frittatas, which is basically like an omelet in muffin shape. I don't ever have to pre-treat this. And when I'm done cooking and I take everything out, I can just literally push on the bottom and everything pops up whole. Nothing sticks inside of these. And that includes when it comes time to clean it. However, I did notice that when you're cleaning silicone, and some of you may have already noticed this, but when you're cleaning silicone, you have to make sure you rinse it well. Because if not, you will get like a little soap residue. It looks like a little white residue on the silicone. Just give it another rinse in those areas with hot water, and it will get the last of that residue off. But nothing sticks to these. So that's, I guess, my favorite part of using anything silicone. So thumbs up on the big muffin molds. And here's the little mini muffin mold. This I use a lot because I like to make the bite size, and I've even used this to make brownies. Instead of putting brownies in a square pan, I'll pour a little bit of brownie batter into each one of these holes and like make little mini brownie bites. They cook up a lot quicker. It makes a nice serving size. If you do 2 or 3 of them in a serving, it's a lot. I don't know. It's enjoyable. You can get inventive. There have been times that I've dropped just one single little chocolate kiss in there. I'll get like the chocolate morsels and I'll drop one little chocolate chip down inside the center, and that melts inside the middle of the brownie. I've also used peanut butter chips in the middle. So when you use the little mini muffins and you do the brownie mix with a peanut butter chip in the middle, okay, chocolate and peanut butter, what's not to love about that, right? So again, a big thumbs up on this donut mold tray. They all clean up nicely. They can go right into the dishwasher to sanitize them. I tend to just pop all the little muffin cups inside out so that I can get around them and wash them really good. I'll do the same thing if I'm putting it in the dishwasher. I'll just pop to turn it inside out and then lay it over the tines and let it wash up and rinse up really good. I find I don't get the residue if I do it that way. It's only when I wash my hands sometimes I get a little residue. It's just me not rinsing them enough. All right. This mold is adorable. Um, I think you may have seen this in a baking video that I did when Mom and I were making cookies for the dogs one day. Love this little thing. This makes regular size, about an inch and a half, not quite 2 inch, like a milk bone. But I have a recipe that Mom loves to sit, and you've seen her in the video pressing the recipe down into the molds. These molds clean up nicely. They're not hard to fill. This little mold, typically, I'll use the end of a spoon in my finger and then just push it down in there with a finger because they're tiny, so you can't really get a lot in each one. But it cooks evenly, cooks quickly, just like the other molds, rinses out nicely, roll it up, put a band around it and store it. I don't have to store any of these silicone molds flat. I can roll them, tuck them, I can seal them in Ziploc bags. I can roll a bunch of them up, put them in a big gallon Ziploc bag, and keep all my molds there together. And rolling them up doesn't hurt them because they'll always bounce back into shape. So this is another fun one. And then this paw mold, I'll put it over here for you. This one you saw a video of Mom filling the mixture to make the dogs their biscuits that look like little paws. So again, this works absolutely wonderful. Bear with me, I got an itch. I got an itch. Okay. So it works great. Again, it's just a mold. What can I say about any of these molds that I've just showed you? They work perfectly. They clean up nicely. I've used them up to 450 degrees in the oven. I haven't ever had to go any higher than that. They stand up to the heat nicely. They stand up to the heat in the dishwasher, which is not that high. The dishwasher is only, what, 120 degrees, I think is what I think that's what my hot water tank is set at. But anyway, no complaints. These are great molds. They don't necessarily hold a lot. But if you want to make more, you just keep refilling the mold. What I tend to do, especially with the dog bones one, I'll make like a triple batch and I'll fill each mold, put them in the oven together because they do cook at about the same temp. They do cook at the same temp and about the same amount of time. And when they're done, I just pop them out and flip them upside down and just go pop, 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 pop them all out, refill them and put the molds right back in the oven again. So yeah, you can do a quick turnover on these molds, which is a good thing. Always make sure too, though, if you're using silicone bakeware, you always keep a regular cookie sheet underneath them to give them that support because they are very, very floppy. And when you take them out of the oven, even though the silicone is really not all that hot to the touch, they're very floppy and you could end up with a mess. So just a tip, okay? Thumbs up on all the molds. Now, these little cupcake things, I paid pennies for these. This is a set of 12, I believe. You'll have to check the link down below. It'll tell you how many they were. But I had gotten these in lieu of using the paper liners when I make cupcakes. These are great because I do not have to use the actual molded cupcake pan, the muffin pan that I showed you earlier. I can just take these and set these freestanding on a cookie sheet, right? And just put them all next to each other and they'll hold their shape even when you put the batter in. Yes, they'll spread just a tiny bit from the weight of your batter, but they don't have to be inside the tin. If you use a metal cupcake tin or yeah, just a metal pan to make your cupcakes, put these in as your liners so that you can take them out. You're not throwing them away. So no more wasted paper liners that you have to peel off. And at the cost for a dozen of them, I think they were, I don't know, maybe 58 cents or something like that. You could get several dozen. The only time for me that I ever want to use paper liners is if I'm making cupcakes for an event that I'm not going to get the liner back. In other words, for a public function of some sort, where I'm actually taking the cupcakes over to a community affair, something like that, then yes, the paper liners are good. But TEMU has those too, right? Okay. Pastry bags. Now, I have two different sizes and I have a set. So I got these heavy duty pastry bags. I'll put them over here for you. One of them is large, so that when I am making like shoe buns and things and I need a large tip that I'm pumping out a lot of dough, I needed a large bag that will hold a lot of the batter, hold a lot of the dough, and something heavy duty that's not going to tear the minute I put pressure on it from above and start squeezing. So I love these heavy duty ones. I got two different sizes in those. And then over here, I'll show you, this is another set. This came with pastry bags, disposable pastry bags. And they also came with a set of tips, a smaller set of tips. So what I will say about this set, now the big pastry bags that I showed you over here, they get a big thumbs up. No problems with them whatsoever. You cut the ends to fit whatever tip you want. So one of them I have cut for my large tip, and the other I have cut to fit a standard size tip. So that's the only thing I had to do, was cut the tips. On this over here, these bags are disposable. I'm going to give you a heads up right now. They're not great for dough. The dough is too thick, it's too heavy, the bags split. Every one I tried with dough and it split. But they are good for frosting. So that set, I have set aside to use that for decorating the tops of cakes or cupcakes or whatever, or just putting icing on buns or whatever that I want to do. If I make a batch of icing, I can just drizzle it and squeeze it out that way. So it's great for anything that's a little thinner, like pudding consistency or frosting consistency, but those disposable bags are not good for dough. Okay, heads up. Now also the tips that come with the set, these are icing tips. So these are for piping, they're not for extruding. So again, that set, I will give it a thumbs up as far as a frosting kit goes, or an icing piping set, but not for any kind of dough extrusion. The bags, also the disposable bags, will not hold up to anything that's warm in it. I was making shoe buns, and I tried to put the shoe dough. It was just lukewarm. It wasn't even hot. It was warm enough to handle, but not warm enough to be hot. I put it in the disposable, and the disposable started to melt, in the sense that the heat was creating a bubble, literally like an air bubble on the side, and eventually it burst. So it won't stand up to anything that's warm. Okay, so thumbs up to both of them. Just keep in mind what you might be using it for in order to get the best benefit from it. Okay? Okay. The mini bunt liners. These are the cutest things. I did not realize that these were as small as a cupcake liner when I got them. I did think they were hand size. They would fill the palm of my hand, but they didn't. They're small, like a regular cupcake liner, but they're designed just like a Bunt pan. They're perfect for making little Bunt cakes. Now, here's a tip that I found that works for these. Instead of making a Bunt, instead of only filling it just to a certain point where the hole goes all the way through and you can kind of look through it, I overfilled it so that it created a bottom, so that when I flipped it out of the mold, there was actually a bottom cake. Then I could fill it. I could fill it with liquid chocolate syrup. I could keep them warm and fill that with ice cream. I could fill it with apple pie filling or any kind of other fruit filling that you can think of. Anything along those lines. You can fill it with a cream type of thing. You can fill it with frosting and just drizzle on it, or not fill it at all. But by overfilling it so that it did cover that little node, so to speak, that little cone, it baked enough of a bottom on it. It gave it a full rise. It baked enough that it gave me a bottom and I could actually put a filling in the center. And I took them over to the community where mom lives, and I made them using spice cake with applesauce instead of water. And then I filled them with apple pie filling. So they were like little mini apple cakes, and they were gone. I made like 30 some of them, and everybody had at least two, and they were gone. So highly recommend these little Bunt things. I do recommend on these little Bunt ones that you do want to give them just a light spray with Pam or whatever you use, just to make it simply because it has a design on it, and you want to let that design stay intact. So I just gave them a little light burst, and everything popped out nicely. But gotta love those, right? All right. Doggy cookie cutter. This just looks like a sitting dog. Stainless steel. It is about 3.5 inches. All right. It's just the right size. You can use it for regular cookies. I used it to make dog cookies, biscuits for the dogs. Instead of taking my mix and putting it into molds, I rolled out and pressed out the mix onto a cookie sheet. And then I cut, and this is a good thing about the mix I use. I cut them out. I scooped out the ones that had been cut, put them on the baking sheet. What was left of the mix, I made a new ball out of it, flattened it again, and got 3 or 4 more cookies out of it. So there was like no waste because it's not a dough. This is made with steel oats when I make for the dogs. So you can use it for anything that you're making. People cookies, dog cookies. The kids can use it for Play-Doh. You can use it if you want to make now cookie cutters are great for this, and I don't think a lot of people realize this. If you're frosting a cake and you're not great at designs, take your cookie cutter and just lightly, after you frost the base of your cake, just do the base frost, lightly press your cookie cutter into where you want the design, and then take your piping, your colored frosting, and follow that pattern. It's like tracing the lines. You can do it with a letter stencil. You can do it with a cookie cutter. I like to use the cookie cutters if I'm making like the birthday cake for the dogs. I'll make a little small cake, like a 6-inch cake, and I'll press that in the top and make a little design out of it for the dogs. And I don't put a candle in, then I stand up a dog bone in the center. But I'm a fur mommy, so that's what we do. So cookie cutters are not just for cutting cookies. Okay? Right. You got to think outside the box, right? I shouldn't have to keep saying this, but yeah. All right. Now, this dough press, this is a tamper, basically. And what it does is if you're rolling out dough and you're making like little mini pies and you're using your muffin tins to make mini pies, this is a two-ended tamper. So whether you're using the full size muffin molds or you're using the mini muffin molds, depends on which so you cut your circles, and a lot of people don't know how to measure to cut your dough circle so that it'll fit completely in there. Take your width. In other words, if your muffin is 2 inches wide and you're going to make a 3-inch wide circle, you go up an inch. If your mold is only an inch wide, you're going to make an 1.5-inch circle. That allows for it to go down the bottom, but to not exceed the level of the top. So you just go up. You increase that size. But this, instead of, especially, I normally have nails, but if you have nails and you don't have tools, you just lay your dough circle across the top and you take this and you just push it down, and it makes it fit nice and firm down in all the edges and gives you that nice cup shape. So it works great. You can use it. I got to change position. Hold on. Oh. Okay. That's better. You can use it pretty much anything. And if you just want to tap down some dough or you want to flatten the dough, you can also use this to press down. I like to make what I call thummies, which is a bigger cookie. It's probably about a 3, almost 4-inch cookie. and then I press a hole in the center using the small end, and I fill it with either something like raspberry filling or maybe chocolate Hershey Kisses, the bigger kisses, or 2 or 3 kisses in the center. So it's something that I'm going to want to put a filling in the middle. I use the smaller end of this to make that dimple, to make that dent. Some people just use their thumb. That's why they're called thummies. But I like to make a more uniform, a more concentric circle in the center. Right? So you get the idea, right? Okay. The hole maker, this corer, this works great. Whether you want to core out muffins, take the center out of a muffin, literally you just push it down in, you push the little red plunger, and as you're pushing the little red plunger, you pull up a little bit. And as you're pulling up, it takes that center out and gives you like your donut hole, which is yummy, right? You can roll your donut hole in powdered sugar, or whatever the case may be. So you can use it to make holes in donuts. If you put out your thing of donut before you bake it, you want to pull out that hole. My grandmother used to use a shot glass to make the hole, but the corer works great. You can also use the corer on apples, on fruit that has smaller pits that you want to take out. So it's not just for dough, right? It's a corer. I have to learn to pronounce properly. Um, all right, frosting tips and filling tips. Now, here's a set of frosting tips that I got. These are smaller, made for frosting, made for decorating. And this is expanded because the tips that came with the set that came with the bag and whatnot, that's just a small amount of tips. This is a big set of tips. This gives me everything and anything I can think of that I want to do designs with, or just, do borders, do edges, whatever the case may be. It's going to be perfect for that. Now, also, what I wanted to let you guys know before I go into the other tips, a frosting tip can be used for making mini cookie bites. So if you don't have a cookie shooter, you can put your cookie dough into a heavy duty bag and that'll stand up to the dough, and use these smaller tips. And as you squeeze it out, you'll get the design. You'll have to squeeze out a lot more, but you'll still get that design. It's perfect for making little bite-sized cookies. And everybody's becoming so health conscious these days that everybody's doing they still want their cookies, but they want smaller portions just so they get the taste. Well, this is a perfect thing to do for that. Use those icing tips to make little mini cookies, or for shooting chocolate. If you're a chocolatier and you like to make candy, use those tips to shoot the candy and or the melted chocolate into the shapes that you want. All right. Now, these filling tips, I'll put them over here. Don't be looking at that TEMU bag. You'll see what's in there in a couple of days. It's only part of the order. The other part's missing. These filling tips are when you're making choux buns, eclairs, donuts that you want to fill. Literally, it has this tiny little pointed nozzle that you just stick right into your pastry, and you squeeze your filling, whatever it might be, to the inside. It takes a little bit of practice not to overfill. The main idea that I've learned is I have to keep it in my hand so that I can feel the amount of pressure on the inside and I know how much is going in. Because with these tips, these are not in like a giant syringe where you can say, okay, I'm going to fill it with 3 cc's and that's all I'm putting in there. You have to do this by squeeze. In other words, how big of a squeeze are you extruding to push through and fill that donut? Takes a little practice. I have found if I push the filler tip further in, and then as I squeeze, I draw back, I can actually get more filling in the donut. And I fill from the side and not from the bottom. If you're going to fill from the bottom, it's going to leak from the bottom, right? Okay. Anyway, thumbs up to all these tips. Everything works fine. So far, thumbs up to everything that I've showed you. In case I've forgotten to mention it, they're all cleaning up well, working well, doing exactly what they're designed to do. And I just modify and adjust accordingly based on my use. All right, these cones, these are for what I call claws. In other words, you wrap your dough around these cones and you bake it around the cone and it holds the shape while it's baking. As long as you don't press it down in the pan, you don't get a flat side. And I'm okay if I get a little bit of a flat side on my dough when it cooks, because that will help keep it stable after I fill it and I set it down, on my serving dish or whatever. It keeps them from rolling around. So I don't mind if it's a little squished, but I found you don't want to press them onto whatever you're cooking them on. You just want to wrap it around, put it in your oven, let it cook. They slide right out. I found I do not have to grease them. I do not have to spray them. They are stainless steel. They clean up beautifully. I just stand them on the tines in the dishwasher like little soldiers, wash them all up that way. Works great. And if I look distracted, it's because Levi's staring at me every time I talk about food. He goes, "Eh," with his ears. Trying not to pay attention, but it's a little hard. So anyway, these cones are perfect for pastries, any type of dough, and I've used a lot of different types. And I've also used them to make ice cream cones. If you know how to make a really thin waffle, like a crepe type thin waffle, right? If you have a waffle iron, you do them thin. While the waffle comes out and it's still hot and moldable, you quick wrap it around this cone. And you don't even have to put it in the oven because the waffle's already cooked. You just wrap it around the cone, lay it on the seam, all right, and let it harden that way. Leave it out in the air. Don't refrigerate it. Leave it out in the air. You will have the perfect little waffle cones for ice cream or whatever you want to put in them. You can make pizza cones. You can put fruit filling in them and make a fruit cone. Whatever you can imagine, but you can make cones. Doesn't necessarily have to be things that you're going to fill with cream and that kind of dessert type stuff. Right. Okay. The cannoli tubes. Now, no, I'm not Italian. I've been asked, am I Italian? Am I Polish? My blah, blah. No, I am German and Dutch on my dad's side, and I am French and Native American on my mother's side. So I'm a melting pot. But I'm a foodie. I just love to cook. And I'm sorry, but the Italian pastries, they're the best. I'm not, hands down, they're the best. So I learned very early on how to make homemade cannolis. And I used to make them by wrapping the dough around bamboo. And I had these small little tubes of bamboo because you can put bamboo in the oven and it doesn't hurt it any. Bamboo is really tough. But in lieu of being able to find the bamboo ones, I got these stainless steel, cannolis, cannoli cones, cannoli tubes. They're hollow, right? As you can see, they're angled on each end. So when you cut your disc, and I use a circle, I don't use a triangle or a square, I use a circle. When I cut my circle, and it's only, if I'm going to make one, it's probably only going to be about a 3-inch circle so that it wraps around with not too much overlap, but just enough to keep it closed. I'll wrap the circle, and as I'm wrapping it, the downside, I'll just wet it a little bit. I keep a bowl of water handy. I'll wet the dough, fold the top over, roll it a couple of times to make the two pieces match, and then set it on my tray. I do not pre-treat. Some people say, oh, well, we have to rub a little oil or something on this. I've never had to. I guess it's probably because of the lard or whatever that I use when I'm making my homemade dough. There's usually enough lubrication in there that I don't have it. And then once it cooks and cools, they just slide right out. So these are great. I did get a double set. It was kind of odd. They came in a set. think it was a set of 5. Anyway, I ended up getting 2 sets. So that I can make a whole bunch at once. Because if I'm going to make cannolis, I'm just going to not make enough for one meal for us. I'm going to make enough that I can put some in the freezer. And you can freeze the shells, which is what I tend to do. I very carefully just put the shells into like a lasagna pan and then cover it and throw it in the freezer. And I can pull out as many shells as I want. I have up to 6 months. I can take the shells out, let them sit in the counter, thaw, at room temperature, and then fill them with whatever I'm of a mind to fill. I've used the lemon fill, I've used chocolate chip fill, I've used pudding with chips and what to fill it. I've used fruit to fill it. So again, cannolis typical have a cream filling, but I like the fruit. I've also used the cannolis to put like pizza fillings in it. I'll make like if you're making a Spanish rice, but without the rice, you're using the meat and the tomato sauce, then you're using some spices, and I might chop up a little bit of like green peppers or onions or something and pipe it into these tubes. You can either pop them in the oven real quick. I usually use the microwave because the tubes are already cooked. Put them in the microwave for 30 seconds and you've got this nice little cannoli pizza. Told you I'm a foodie, right? Okay, what's next? The batter dispenser. Now, you did see me haul this a little while ago. It wasn't not too long ago. I got this for making donuts, but I also found that it did work for making pancakes. I believe I said in my last video that I made a big batch of chocolate chip pancakes and threw them in the freezer. I used this dispenser. After I got done mixing my batter, I poured the batter into this dispenser, and when I would release it, the batter would come out into the right size, and then I'd pull up on it, and it would basically close it. So just the opposite of when you want to extrude, you would push down on it, and when you don't, you let it loose. That's the same way, but because the batter is thinner than donut dough, so to speak, but it worked great for dropping the pancakes and just making it so much easier than having to scoop and ladle and whatnot. It worked perfectly. I have not used it for donuts yet. I stress yet, but so far I'm happy with it. It is a little flimsy, but I have found I can fill it all the way up and it holds up well, it washes well, and it works well. Does the job. So again, that's a thumbs up on this. All right, the square cake pans. Now I have these in 2 different sizes. I have one that's well over 9 inches, almost 10 inches, and then I have another one that's a little bit over 8 inches. Both of them work great. They're both silicone based. They wash up nice, they clean nice. Yes, I do spray these with a little bit of Pam, or I grease them with a little bit of butter before I put batter in them. Typically, what I've been cooking in them doesn't have enough lubrication of its own to be able to pop out. And even though it's silicone, some of it, if I try to take it out too quickly, will stick, and then you get those little gaps in the bottom, little pieces that come out. So I do give it a light spray, but again, they wash up nicely. They bake perfectly. Mom and I made brownies in them. What else did we make in them? We made something else. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, we've done it a couple of times, and they work well. So I like having the different sizes because not everything calls for an 8-inch pan. Some things, if I'm making like a double, we made cornbread in one. And because cornbread is heavier and I made a bigger batch, I used the bigger pan for that so that I could get the cornbread cooked properly, but have it still retain some of its moisture and not be quite as crumbly as cornbread tends to be. So a big thumbs up on that. Loaf pans, I have a couple of these. So check these out. I have the big one, which was 9 inches, the full size one. And then I have a smaller one in case I want to make more of an individual size. I have used these both as bread pans. I've used them for making meatloaf. I grew up where you make certain foods in a loaf pan and not just bread in a loaf pan. So anything that you can think of, it can be desserts, it can be bread, it can be a meat. Um, you can use them as a Jello mold. If you wanted to be a little bit different during the holidays and you wanted to serve your friends a slice of Jello, maybe you put fruit in your Jello, like green and red cherries or something during the holidays, and maybe walnuts. You can serve them a slice instead of a messy scoop. And there's something nice about a slice. I don't know why, but I just think it's really cool. Never mind. Okay. The Bunt pan, you have seen me use this um, with mom when we made the apple spice Bunt cake with the coconut caramel pecan frosting. Yeah, that worked beautifully. It kept the shape. It's got a nice little design to it. Not a major twist, but a little bit of a twist. Nice design to it, cleaned up well, baked well. Um, I find things in the silicone bake a little quicker than things in the metal pan, which I would have thought it would have been the opposite. I would have thought the heat that the metal generated would have made the foods cook quicker. But something about the silicone lets the heat get through into the batter faster. And my baking time is a lot less using the silicone. So this bun pan again was great, no problems, worked perfectly. I did spray this liner again because it had a cake type batter in it. Well, it did have a cake batter in it, but I did give it a light spray. It popped out gorgeous. So the pan works beautifully. These round cake pans, now they had these in 3 different sizes. I only got just the big size. I don't typically make tiered cakes or anything that's too small. I have other metal pans that I can still use if I want something smaller, like the dog's cakes, but this works just as good. Again, it's just the silicone, same story as all the other bakeware, all the other silicone bakeware, cleans up well. Again, I do have a tendency to either spray or butter the inside of these, depending on what I'm making. I might butter and or flour the inside of it to give it a good coating to make sure things don't stick. I made a chocolate fudge cake in this, so it got buttered and floured, and then the batter went in, and the cake just tipped right out of it. No complaints. I probably should have gotten another one, but I I don't get into doing the 2 layer and 3 layer and 4 layer cakes anymore. Everything to me is like single layer. It's enough. Just a single layer. I don't need all that extra thickness and goo. All right, collapsible strainers. Now, of course, mine are red. The ones you're seeing are not. They're gray and green, but mine are red and gray. I do have the 2 sizes. Absolutely love, love, love these strainers. The fact that they fold flat, they go right into one of my drawers in my kitchen, and they don't take up any space because they're flat. I can stack anything else on top of them that I need to. They wash up beautifully because they're silicone, nothing sticks to them. And I've strained starchy pastas, as you can imagine, starchy potatoes. Like if I do boiling potatoes to make mashed potatoes or to make potato salad, any kind of potato is going to have starch come off it. It doesn't stick to it. I've used it for straining different types of vegetables. I've used them for straining my lentils. Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. Perfect. If you're looking to save space and still have a functional product, my shirt's falling off. Yeah, all my clothes are getting big. Anyway, perfectly functional. Double thumbs up for both of these. No problems whatsoever. They can handle cold food products. They can handle boiling hot water coming through them. As nothing has affected them, and they haven't lost any of their color. None of these silicone molds that I've shown you, they've all been used multiple times, and not one of them has started to fade and lose its color. So the heat doesn't affect it. No matter how many times I wash it, nothing seems to affect it. These colors are staying. And these molds, they're not warping, they're not bending. They're not getting odd little creases in them. They're not getting little nicks or tears, nothing. I mean, no matter what I do to these things, granted, I don't put sharp knives or metal utensils into them, but no matter what I've used them for, how much I've put them through, they're like new. They still are like new. All right. My dough mat, this is one of my favorite things. And anytime I'm working with any kind of dough, this comes out, it goes on the top of my island. I got the bigger one, which is a little more than 2 feet by, I think it's 24 by 22. It's got all the markings and measurements on it. It is perfect because something about the silicone nature of it, it's a very thin silicone, but something about the nature, it doesn't slip on my island top. It stays put and it wipes down so easy. It's ridiculous. I can take my dough cutter, my stainless steel dough cutter, and chop through the dough. It doesn't leave scratches or grooves in this mat. I can mix on it. The flour cleans up nicely. I spill anything on it, any fluids just kind of what's the word I'm looking for? They just like leave little bubbles. It doesn't, nothing gets absorbed into it. It's totally non-absorbent. Okay, that's the only way to say it. Nothing gets into it. Nothing has stained it. I've used food coloring on it and got drops of food coloring on it. Nothing has stained this. This is amazing. It comes in different sizes. I went with the bigger one primarily because I wanted to have the freedom of not being confined to this little tiny space and being careful, like, oops, because my island top is 4-inch travertine tiles. So most people put like 12 and 18-inch travertine tiles on their floor. I put travertine tiles on my island top. That's a custom island top that I made. And even though it's sealed, there's no little nooks and crannies, you know, and it's perfectly level. I like to make sure that it's protected. So I have this biggest possible mat that covers it nicely. And it's just, I can put everything on it and pull in the corners, fold it up, take it over to the sink, rinse it off with the water, and it's clean. So yeah, get the bigger one. It's definitely worth it. Anything smaller, unless you're limited in counter space and you have to get a small one, anything smaller to me would not work because then you're always trying to be really careful about going off the edges or getting food all over the place. So I got the bigger one and I have room to roll. Okay. The cake wire slicer. Now, I used to use, and I think I told you in a previous video, I used to use dental floss when I had to take a single layer cake and slice it in half so that I could put filling on it. Most people don't think of using dental floss. People grab a knife and go and try to get it level. Well, that will work if you're really good at keeping your hand level as it comes through the cake. But with dental floss, I would just wrap it around my fingers, lock my thumbs on the countertop, and just drag my hands through, and it would slice it perfectly. Same thing with taking that little hump off the top of your cake. I would put my hand sideways on the countertop like this with the dental floss wrapped around where I wanted it, and then just slide it through by dragging my hands on the countertop. They're not changing position. So that worked great. But dental floss cuts your fingers. It does not leave a taste in the cake. Trust me, there's no taste in the cakes, but it's dangerous. All right, because you get a tight grip and you pull on that thing, you can slice your finger. So when I saw this, I thought it's great. I don't use the handle on top. I do hold it by the sides, but I love that the two bars are adjustable. You can move one completely out of the way. But if I wanted to take a single layer cake and make it 3 layers, I have those 2 bars. I just set the feet on the counter. I set the bars where I want them, and I just pull it straight through the cake. And I usually do like this. I usually do a little walk with it so it comes through because I don't have a hand free to hold the cake from moving. So I kind of do this with it. It cuts it beautifully. It cleans up nice. The tension stays good on it. As I said, you can use it to make one slice, just get the other, slide the other bar up out of the way because they are adjustable. Or you can use it to make one layer cake into a 3-layer cake. It's, yeah, why go out and buy extra cake when you can just slice it and slice it evenly and nice. And that's what I like about it. You can also, what I've done with it is move the top one all the way up out of the way and then take the lower one and move it up just high enough to trim the top of my cake before I do any slicing. I take off that mound on the top. Now, some people, they'll leave that on there and they'll frost right over it. And, to each his own. A lot of people, it doesn't matter. To me, I like a nice smooth top that I can decorate, that I can do something with. So this slicer is really good. And until you get one, break out the dental floss. Okay? All right. The stand mixer sliding pin. Oh my gosh, we're almost at an hour already. Now, y'all have seen, you've heard me talk about how I got the cover for my stand mixer. Don't have the jumbo stand mixer. I have the medium sized stand mixer. And those things are heavy. They have little rubber catch legs on the bottom to keep them from walking across your counter, of course, when they're on. That makes them difficult because I leave mine countertop. It makes it difficult to move it. So I got this little sliding pad. It's perfect. It's got the little tab on the front. You just grab it by the tab, pull it forward, and when you're done with your mixer stays on it all the time. You just put your hand on the top of the mixer and push it back in the corner, and it just slides right into place. No picking it up, no having it stuck or having, those things are heavy. Okay. I mean, I've got a KitchenAid one. They have other brand ones. Even my middle-sized one it's a heavy unit, and having to slide it constantly, pull it in and out, now that I'm baking more over the course of the winter. Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. And I just realized you guys can finally see that I put some decor up on the walls here. I got my mirrors up so you can see the fan that's actually right over my head. And on this side, you can see my family little photo thing, my floating shelves, and I got my lamp out over here, and there's my black candles that I got from TEMU. So yeah, things are finally going up on the walls. You can just barely see over on this side. I've got my 2 Native American posters that are up over here. Pictures, not posters, but yeah, things are coming along nicely in here. I've been spending some time doing that and trying to do this too. So anyway, that slide pad. My head itches. This hairpiece makes my head itch. Probably means I have to wash it. I've been wearing it a lot. This is my curly one that we haven't named yet. This is a 26-inch long curly sucker. We got to name it. I don't know. All right, couple more things because we are almost at an hour. The oven drip pads. Now, a couple of you have told me that you had these, and that's one of the reasons why I got them, because I don't always remember to put a cookie sheet under something that might boil over or bubble up like an apple pie or whatever the case, or a pizza when I put something in the oven. So I put one of these down in the very bottom underneath the heating coils, and the legs of the heating coil hold it down. And then I put another one across the bottom rack that's in the oven. And then of course I have my middle rack. Well, I was afraid that the one on the bottom would melt from the heat of the coil. Nope, doesn't bother it at all. I am seriously impressed. A little bit of stuff did get on it, which is why I got smart and finally put something on the second rack, on the lower rack. But when I pulled it out, my oven was clean. The mat everything just wiped right off it. I let it air dry on the drainer, and I put it right back in the bottom underneath the coil. And no problems. I love these. I don't remember who recommended to me, but thank you. And now I am recommending them to all of you out there to get these drip mats for inside your oven, whether you put them on each of your racks, because it is a set of 2. You put one on the top rack, one on the bottom rack, you're protected. I'll put one on the bottom under the coil. You've got a choice. And I leave them in there. That way I don't forget that I need to put them in. I just leave them in there. So they're in there. And after I'm done baking, I take them out and I clean them. Right? Thumbs up. Hello. All right, couple more things. All right. Stainless rolling pin. This is also a recent haul that you saw me get. This is an 11-inch stainless steel rolling pin. It's very, very lightweight. It is hollow, but you cannot, it's not one of those ones that you can open the end and like put chipped ice or warm water or whatever into it. I wish it was, because that would be great. That's the next thing on my agenda, and I'm going to look for one of those on TEMU, because it helps when you're working with certain types of dough. It helps if you can either keep that dough chilled, like if I'm making a croissant that's a butter pastry. I don't want my butter to get too soggy. So having ice inside of it, it lets me roll it out, but that coolness keeps my butter from just totally liquefying. So I have got to find me one of those. But this one works great. It's perfect for little small things that you want to roll out or small things that you just need to press down. It's also good. Um, I have, if you want to take the air out of something, in other words, when I first pull out dough after it's been rising, a lot of people would just punch it down. I just take this and just whack it a couple of times, and it knocks the excess air out of it, because there's some things that you make that you have to do that. You've got to knock the excess air out of your dough. So works good, no complaints, flours up nicely, cleans up nicely. I just lay it on the rack in the dishwasher. Comes out beautiful. No signs of rust, no signs problems. So that's telling me it is stainless steel and not aluminum. So love it. All right, let's make this the last item because we're at 56 minutes. This is a larger baking tip. Now I'm putting my board down. um, I told you I have the big heavy duty pastry bag. And when I make shoe buns, or if I'm making something where I need that larger tip, this is a heavy duty tip. This thing literally is about that big around. It pumps out a big, huge amount of dough. Now, it's also really good, not just like making shoe buns and whatnot, but it's good for making like the little dough balls that you want to make cookies that are in like ball form. Instead of you having to sit there and roll every single one, this will shoot them out. This is also great for shooting baguettes. And what I will do with it is to make a braided baguette, which I usually just do 3 braids. I don't get too fancy because I can never keep all those strands in mind. I just use this big tip and I shoot 3 lines of dough, all the same length, and then I just crisscross them, tuck the ends under, and I make myself a nice braided bread. It works perfectly for that. It also works perfectly if you want to make larger pretzel sticks or larger pretzels, because it basically, you just hold it sideways and you lay out what you want to do with it. Um, it's good for if you want to make anything that has to be cut like a disc, so to speak, like a wafer. Because it pumps out about that big, you pump it out sideways and then you just cut each piece, and it will make the perfect, it'll let you make the perfect size pastry by keeping everything uniform in the amount that you're doing. So love this big pastry. So this particular video, that was 33 items for you. Everything in this video gets a big thumbs up. There wasn't even anything really questionable in here. It just worked out that way. There is going to be one more video because I've still got 34 more things. I cannot believe all this has come out. Look at the numbers of what I've showed you so far. We're closing in on 200 items. And we're just in my kitchen. So anyway, guys, big thumbs up if you stuck all the way. Please, thumbs up helps my channel grow by getting it out into the algorithms, and YouTube will show it to more people. And by YouTube showing it to more people, I get more subscribers, etc., and my channel grows. Make sure you share this. Get this out so people can say, hey, you know what? Connie's doing a review over here on all this kind of stuff. And if you were thinking about getting it, this is the place to check out and look at the review for the kitchen item. So this is video number 4. There will be a My TEMU Kitchen part 5, probably next week. We'll see. I don't know. There will be more TEMU orders coming. I'm waiting for the other half of this order because they split off items and this one only has 3 items in it. So I'm going to wait till the whole order gets here. So then I have 2 more orders coming and a sponsored order coming for you. So if you're not yet subscribed to my channel, right there, click the subscribe button that's below. No, not the one in the picture, the one that's below. Click the subscribe button, click the notification button so you know anytime that I'm putting something out. In the meantime, remember, stay hydrated. Yes, I got my Pitbull mug. And you'll see more of this tomorrow because tomorrow I have some more kitchen items. Well, not tomorrow, next video. I have more kitchen items and this is one of them. My cute little Levi mug. Stay hydrated. Above all else, please stay sweet. And I will catch you soon, probably in just a couple of days, with more TEMU.